Good afternoon. I wanted to quickly run through the process of activating and creating the ability to use the Cars for Sale feed through our services. There are two options. The first being that if you were able to get in with the beta program with Google and you have your own FTP credentials, this video is not pertinent to that process. It is a little bit different for you. And if you want to help specifically with that, just contact the support team and we can walk you through that, give you the help documentation for that, et cetera, et cetera. But this is for clients who are not currently part of the program and would like to take advantage of the Cars for Sale feed pushing to the Google My Business profile. And it's quite simply just a couple of steps on your part, and then once these steps are completed, the process of uploading the file is in our hands. So it should be a very simple process for you. I just want to kind of go through the normal indicators and what the process would be. One, if you don't have the feed feature, the display feed feature enabled, we'll talk about that. And then just simply the creation of the new feed in itself. So it'd be real short, two parts. But first, let me just kind of run through the dashboard real quick. Just a recap of these icons on the front of the page. You'll see that the little gear icon is here. That is for a deep link into this account's profile settings. So when we talk about dealer advertiser or dealer profile, that's this little gear icon here. You'll see that this little magnifying glass is not active unless this one is. So this is kind of like a two-part deal. These are both related to the search feature within our platform. If you're not using search with us and you don't have those activated, those will be grayed out like these other ones. But the difference is the little stack of boxes takes you to the campaign templates, and that's where you define the level of ad group segmentation and whether or not you're using a pre-build template or an auto template. But that is where you store your campaign builder, or basically the bones of your campaigns and that information related to that. The magnifying glass is basically an AdWords recap report, and that deep links to basically a screen that shows you the changes that happen overnight within the search templates. It does not pull down anything like performance data, but it is specific to our processing. So it tells you what ad groups were activated, which ones were paused, and then any error messages or any issues that might have popped up, it will give you that kind of alert message. But that's what that one's referring to. The next icon is what we're talking about today, which is the display feed feature. And in order to use the Cars for Sale program, that feature has to be activated. And you'll see in this case, there's only one advertiser with that feature enabled. I'll go quickly through how to enable it. And then the second part of that will be then how to create the feed itself. That last column you see with the little video camera, that is another feature that we have, which is dynamic video. A lot of automotive clients don't use that, but some do, and there are some that use it quite extensively. So again, if you need help with that specific feature, please contact the support team and we'll get a dedicated person out to chat with you about that. But moving on, I'm going to move just directly into this account since it's already activated. I'll show you how to turn that on inside this advertiser, but it does have to be activated before we can create the feed, so we're just going to go through that process. The first thing, though, that is very important, and you'll need this for both Google VLA and Cars for Sale, and that is the Google store code. The store code is required in the feed in order for Google to identify the client in this case, or the advertiser. So that is like the first step in creating this, or enabling this feature and then creating the feed. Because if we pass the file, or if you try to pass the file with no store code, Google will flag it and reject the vehicles. So the first thing we do is we want to make sure we have that. If you need help finding that. We do have help documentation that shows you where it at, but it's in basically when you open the business profile within Google, go to your information in the advanced settings on that page, and that will have the Google store code. Again, by default, store codes are empty. So if it's a brand new account, nobody's ever created one, you'll have to create one. The only stipulation is that it cannot begin with a 0, and there is a max character count. I think it's like 32 characters, but nobody's ever exceeded it that I'm aware of. But those are the only two guidelines. Can't begin with 0, and there's a max character length. That said, moving on, the next step you do is go to your features tab. Now, in this case, as I said, this has already been turned on, but the action would be, it would look like this originally. Like if it's not enabled, it would be grayed out. You just flip the switch, and it turns that on. You'll notice that when you activate this or turn it to blue, this number 3 will become an active page for you. And that's the next page we're going to move to. So first step is turning this on. Then you're going to move to this page. This is only required, or this information is only required if you're going to be utilizing remarketing. And we need to set up the remarketing for you. So what we're asking on this page is for the GTM container information. We're reminding you that if we are going to be the ones setting it up, we do need publish access to that container. And then your pixel information for both Facebook and AdWords. And then you would just select request new script install and save changes. Again, this is a separate process, but part of turning that feature on. It's not required. It's only needed if we're going to install the remarketing script, and it doesn't impact the cars for sale feature specifically. So, but just wanted to make sure that you knew or were aware when you enable that feature, this is now a page in here that's active, and it can be ignored if you want it to be, or if you need us to help with remarketing, we can certainly do that. So then once that is done, I'm just going to hit Save Changes. In this instance, I didn't make any changes, so I'm just going to go back to the advertiser page here, and then talk about, like, once I've now saved those, right, it's going to take me back to this page, and then I just go back in to the feed section, and this is now going to display and give me the opportunity to manage my feeds. By default, there are 3 feeds that are created when you activate that feature. That is the Facebook default feed, and that is the automotive formatted feed. So it's going to have headers that are make, model, year, trim, etc., etc. Very automotive specific. There's also the product feed, which is if you're using Facebook as a reference, it's called the retail feed. So it's going to have things as the headers like brand and title, description. So it's not going to be automotive specific nomenclature. And some clients that are automotive still use that for special cases. But in most cases, if it's an automotive advertiser, you're just going to use that first one, the automotive feed, or the default feed. The third one that's auto-created, so when you turn that feature on, these are automatically generated. It's called the Google Ads default feed. This is specifically for running dynamically generated campaigns inside of Google Ads. It's not referencing to cars for sale, vehicle ads, and Merchant Center. This is strictly for dynamic campaigns inside of Google Ads, inside the interface. So those are the 3 that are generated by default. Moving on to what we're trying to focus on, which is the cars for sale feed. I just hit add a new feed. I'm going to Honda San Marcos. Cars for sale. The feed format, the feed type is always default, unless we're doing something different. But for this, all intents and purposes, it's going to be default for all of the feeds you're going to create. We're going to go down and select the format, which is Google My Business Cars for Sale. I'm going to hit Next. And then here I'm going to select the advertiser. In this case, because we only have one client with that feature activated, it's only going to give me the option to select that one advertiser. Now you'll see that there's a store code option here. We always recommend, because there's multiple feeds that need the store code, always put it at the advertiser settings page, which is that first page I showed you. Because if this code ever changes or you ever have to update it, you'd have to go to the individual feed if you put it in this page. But you can. This overwrites anything at the client level. So, for example, the code that was in there earlier, and we needed to use a different code because good example is a dealership has two entities at one physical location, so they're running like a custom cars service, and they have a different Google store profile for that, and it's got a different store code, and you needed to split the inventory in our system. That's how you could still do that and have the inventory live in one location. So a little complicated, but not important. For all intents and purposes, you're going to leave that blank because you filled it in earlier. Then if you needed to add UTM tracking parameters, for example, UTM underscore source Google. Sorry, that's not accurate. And then I'm going to add those. So you'll see here it gives you this little example of what that snippet would look like. Again, this is optional, it's not required, but if you needed to use it, that's what you'd use it for. I'm not going to add that to this. Yes, delete. And then I'm going to hit next. That's going to take me to my filter options. You do not need to filter anything out of this feed unless there's just something you want to remove. The filter options in most cases are to put certain or specific vehicles into a feed, but this is going to feed your business profile. So in most cases, you're going to want all inventory to go to that page. So I'm going to not set this up in this example, but you can always come back and edit this as you see fit. If for some reason you wanted to filter out specific units of inventory or something specific. Not needed in this case. And then all I'm going to do is hit submit. You'll see now that I have this file created. Inventory is here with all the pertinent information, and that is it. From your side to set up cars for sale, that's all you have to do in this case. What we're going to automatically do is every 4 hours our system runs through every advertiser that we have in our system that has that feed format created. We're going to consolidate that file and we're going to send that file to Google. So for example, what happens every 4 hours, we'll pick that up and then we dump it into our system. So I'm going to just look for that dealer. Actually, let me use San Marcos as the search term. You'll see that we have an advertiser already pushing called San Marcos Toyota, and it's currently inactive. But we have the system; they have that vehicle or that dealership in our file. We are pushing it, and the reason it's not being pushed is for this reason. So we will get those alerts, and we'll communicate those as necessary. You can always question us if there's if you're seeing something or you're not seeing the inventory populate. You can always send us a request. We can give you the status of what that advertiser looks like. But obviously, since I just created that file, it's not going to be here. But once it does start populating and you want a confirmation that it's going through, just ping us. We can always check it out, make sure that it's up, or give you any notice of what the error codes look like. But that's literally it. So all you have to do is activate it in the front end, turn the feature on, create the feed, and we'll automatically pick it up and we'll pass it. And again, we get the error messages on any of that stuff. So we do try to weed through some of that stuff on a proactive basis. But if for some reason you have a specific question, just ping us, let us know, and we can get you an update. Okay? Thanks.